At 4:26 a.m., the port of Long Beach looked like a machine that had forgotten to sleep. Fog drifted low over container rows. Harbor lights smeared yellow across damp asphalt. The air carried salt, diesel, wet steel, and the distant groan of cranes lifting weight in the dark. Trucks idled in queue lanes. Security lights buzzed over chain-link fences. A cargo horn moaned somewhere out on the water. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. Then the engines cut. FBI, ICE, DEA, DHS support units, SWAT teams moving in disciplined silence, black armored vehicles rolling into position along service roads and warehouse lanes, unmarked vans stopping just outside freight yards, tactical teams stacking against steel doors, while surveillance drones fed live imagery into mobile command units. In San Pedro, the agents closed in on a shipping office registered to a company called Pacific Meridian Solutions, a front business so polished and legitimate on paper that no one outside the investigation would have looked twice. In Long Beach, another team hit a bonded warehouse attached to the same company's import chain. In Vernon and Commerce, warehouse crews moved toward 2 suspected Inland Empire distribution points. In Carson, agents raided a truck repair facility believed to be modifying cargo trailers with hidden internal shells. In East Los Angeles, a cartel-run accounting office hidden above a tax preparation storefront was surrounded before anyone inside realized the block was already sealed. The first breach came fast. A steel side entrance blew inward under a hydraulic ram. Flashbangs burst like artificial lightning in narrow cargo lanes. NER agents in black moved through the smoke with rifles low and commands high, boots hammering metal catwalks and concrete loading bays. One armed guard tried to fire through a row of stacked crates and vanished under a flood of tactical lights before he got off a second shot. Another suspect bolted toward a forklift corridor carrying a hard case handcuffed to his wrist. He made it 20 feet. In Carson, a pair of mechanics tried to lower a reinforced trailer shell onto a hidden pit before ICE tactical teams pinned them against a welding station slick with oil and metal dust. At the tax office in East Los Angeles, evidence technicians found currency counters still warm, plastic ceiling bands on the floor, and ledger books tucked behind false drywall panels. And then the numbers began to climb. At the Long Beach bonded warehouse, agents uncovered 117 kilos of cocaine hidden inside sealed ceramic tile pallets, 46 kilos of heroin packed into industrial pump housings, 780,000 fentanyl pills concealed in fake battery modules, and 210 kilos of methamphetamine wrapped in moisture barriers and stacked inside a shipment labeled restaurant refrigeration parts. At the San Pedro office complex, they found nearly $18 million in physical cash, offshore account records, encrypted drives, and a cargo routing dashboard that mapped container flows from maritime intake to inland dispersal. In the Carson trailer yard, hidden compartments built into 6 outbound rigs held vacuum-sealed currency bricks, forged manifests, prepaid devices, and 3 duffel bags of cut diamonds used as mobile value transfers when banking channels became risky. In one Inland Empire warehouse, investigators recovered rifles, pistols, suppressors, body armor, and a secondary storage vault containing passports, forged port credentials, and employment files for shell company staff who never actually existed. But the strangest discovery was buried deep inside the cargo itself. At 5:14 a.m., inside a sealed container listed as agricultural filtration equipment, agents cut through an interior wall and found what looked at first like a second container hidden inside the first. That was the secret cargo chamber. Then they cut again. Inside were cash blocks stacked behind heat-shielded insulation, narcotics loads packed into machine cavities, and a row of steel cases fitted with tamper-proof locks and biometric latches. When those were opened, the operation stopped feeling like smuggling and started feeling like something else entirely. Inside the cases were encrypted hard drives, procurement records, port access schedules, shell company ownership maps, and sealed payment sheets carrying the names of intermediaries, inspectors, planners, and political fixers. One supervisor looked at the evidence spread across the floor and said quietly, "This is not hidden cargo. This is a hidden command structure." By 10:03 a.m., the scene had shifted from harbor fog and breach charges to fluorescent light, humming servers, and analysts staring at screens that made ordinary buildings look infected. Inside a federal cyber forensics center near downtown Los Angeles, seized drives were being cloned, broken apart, and reconstructed sector by sector. Coffee cups sat untouched beside keyboards. Phone calls moved in whispers. Outside, traffic swelled and the city resumed its daily motion. Inside, time slowed. The breakthrough came from a hardened laptop seized in San Pedro. Once analysts cracked a concealed partition, the screen filled with root overlays, financial threads, and internal directives under a project name that appeared again and again across manifests, warehouse leases, customs bypass notes, and encrypted approvals. Project Harbor Veil. That was the architecture behind the operation in this fictional dramatization. Project Harbor Veil was not just a Sinaloa Cartel smuggling route. It was a carefully engineered California cargo empire built around legal infrastructure. The analysts saw shell companies in California, Nevada, Delaware, and Panama, ghost corporations registered through offshore service firms, sham foundations using charitable language to wash money through events and grants, logistics consultants, marine insurance brokers, warehouse holdings, trucking subcontractors, restaurant chains, import-export agencies, fuel card accounts, freight billing adjustments. Every piece seemed small on its own. Together they formed a machine. Money flowed through it like current. Small transfer fees masked as late handling penalties, emergency customs surcharges, insurance settlement adjustments, sustainability grants, cold chain equipment replacement charges, brokerage reimbursements. Port congestion premiums. Nothing dramatic, nothing flashy. Just enough paperwork, enough layers, and enough routine to make the dirty river below it nearly invisible. What had been built was not a tunnel under the law. It was a tunnel through the law. Then the analysts found the signature. A recurring encrypted authorization key appeared across altered container statuses, inspection deferrals, reassigned scanner queues, route protection orders, and emergency movement approvals tied to high-value cargo. That same key appeared in files involving narcotics transfers, money laundering clusters, labor intimidation, migrant smuggling side corridors, and human trafficking safe-side payments used to control vulnerable workers near warehouse zones. Again and again, the key resolved to one man, Damian Varela. Publicly, in this fictional story, Damian Varela was a shipping executive, infrastructure investor, and polished West Coast logistics figure known for appearing beside port redevelopment campaigns and trade panels. He spoke about efficiency, resilience, port modernization, and global competitiveness. He donated to city beautification drives, funded scholarship dinners, sat on advisory boards, knew exactly how to sound boring in a room full of cameras. Privately, according to Harbor Veil's internal architecture, he was the covert political protection fixer who had aligned corporate freight systems, compromised inspection channels, and cartel-linked cargo flows into one protected commercial bloodstream. This was not simple bribery. This was command-level collusion. That was the phrase one analyst finally used after tracing Varela's digital key to route overrides, container shielding, and selective enforcement blind spots across Los Angeles and Long Beach cargo systems. Another analyst found continuity plans labeled gray water, detailing what to do if a shipment was compromised, if a warehouse burned, if an arrest triggered public pressure, or if a partner agency got too close. Backup companies, backup drivers, backup routes, backup accountants, backup political intermediaries. The system had been designed to lose pieces and keep breathing, and then they opened the file that made the room fall silent. It was labeled Tide Crown. Inside was a strategic plan for turning Southern California into a permanent Atlantic and Pacific crossover fortress. For cartel freight expansion, it laid out long-term control over inland warehouse belts, transport permits, labor contracting, customs noise management, and regional distribution. It described how fake green energy cargo programs and agricultural shipping exemptions could be used to mask movement. It mapped how selected way stations could be softened through maintenance requests, how freight scans could be delayed through technical exceptions, and how overloaded enforcement agencies could be pushed to chase lower-value noise, while premium narcotics cargo passed inside cleaner channels. It was not the language of a street crew. It was the language of administration, and that was the moment the federal teams understood something ugly. The night raid had not ended the operation. It had only touched the skin. At 3:51 a.m. the next day, inside a hardened command center near the port, giant digital maps pulsed with red markers from San Pedro to Long Beach, from Vernon to Commerce, from Carson to Ontario, from East Los Angeles through Inland Empire warehouse corridors stretching toward Riverside and San Bernardino. More red lights flashed on trucking relay points, bonded storage yards, shell office addresses. Luxury homes in the hills, and quiet industrial properties that looked empty in daylight. The map did not resemble a gang territory board. It looked like a second commercial grid hidden beneath the first. The mission order went out before dawn. More than 1,300 federal personnel, 49 SWAT and tactical elements, FBI financial crime squads, DEA narcotics units, ICE transport interdiction groups, DHS aviation support, armored vehicles, K-9 teams, asset forfeiture crews, drone surveillance above selected freight corridors, marine support around harbor access lanes, Search warrants stacked deep enough to hit the outer network and the protected center at the same time. Then the second wave detonated across Southern California. In Long Beach, two agents hit a customs brokerage office and found manipulated manifest templates linked to dozens of protected shipments. In San Pedro, a waterfront mansion registered to an investment holding company turned out to be a secure meeting site fitted with encrypted communications, hidden compartments, and a private panic room stocked with passports, bullion, and emergency cash. In Vernon, a food distribution warehouse held cocaine loads hidden inside imported grinding equipment. In Commerce, federal teams stormed a textile importer and discovered a concealed pill press room with precursor chemicals, counterfeit pharmaceutical dyes, and more than 2.1 million fentanyl pills staged for distribution. In Carson, a truck retrofit yard concealed blueprint files for false floor trailers and cargo shells capable of hiding millions in narcotics and currency without triggering routine visual checks. In Ontario, an air freight-linked facility held server racks, communication hubs, and a backup cash vault feeding the entire operation. Across the region, the seizures became staggering. More cocaine, more heroin, more methamphetamine, more fentanyl powder, more fentanyl pills, weapons, encrypted radios, bulk cash, gold, crypto wallets, hard copy payroll books, property deeds, false employee rosters, route lists, extortion records, illegal labor ledgers, one marina office containing transfer instructions between cartel coordinators, shipping brokers, and local protection figures, one suburban mansion serving as a so-called drug fortress, with armed private security and camera feeds linked to warehouse corridors miles away, one hidden room beneath a printing company holding forged credentials for contractors, dock workers, and security personnel. The underworld in this fictional California took more damage in 6 hours than it had in the previous 6 years. But then the seized servers began to talk. Investigators started correlating route approvals with scanner logs, shift rotations, internal emails, patrol patterns, customs review windows, and maintenance requests. What emerged was not merely a few corrupted employees. It was a second enforcement layer inside the lawful one. 23 officials, contractors, port employees, and law enforcement affiliates were identified in the first wave of this fictional investigation as compromised, protected, or under deep suspicion. A deputy port compliance supervisor repeatedly reassigned certain containers out of high-risk scan lanes. A county transport planner shifted freight monitoring coverage during key convoy nights. 2 records clerks processed ownership documents for warehouse shell firms while suppressing crosslinks. A senior sergeant passed scheduling information through an intermediary paid by one of Varela's holding companies. A local zoning official accelerated approvals for warehouse modifications that should have triggered safety inspections. A retired judge serving as outside counsel specialized in delaying forfeiture actions and civil seizures tied to port-connected properties. Several officers and inspectors received mortgage support, tuition payments, consulting fees, or family debt relief through offshore-linked domestic entities. That was when the honest people inside the system felt the betrayal in full. One veteran investigator reportedly sat in front of a wall covered with route logs and internal emails and recognized names he had trusted for years. Not cartel gunmen, not smugglers in masks, colleagues, supervisors, men who shook hands at memorials and retirement ceremonies, women who wore official credentials and spoke about integrity in public while clearing lanes for poison in private. One federal agent later described the evidence room as quieter than any raid scene, because gunfire is simple. Gunfire tells you where the enemy is. Betrayal does not. And when the arrest teams moved on those insiders, the damage cut deeper than the narcotics count. A deputy chief went into cuffs in a parking structure beneath a public safety building. A compliance supervisor was arrested at his desk before dawn could reach the windows. A transport contractor tried to claim he had only moved freight flags on a screen until agents laid out overdose numbers and shipment chains connected to his approvals. A records analyst collapsed into a chair when shown the transfer network that had paid off his gambling debt. Honest officers stood a few feet away, silent, not because they did not know what to say, but because there was nothing left to say. This was not simple corruption. It was a parallel protection system, a secret service layer feeding the cartel what it needed most: time, invisibility, and confidence that the real system could be made to serve a criminal future. One federal supervisor put it in language that traveled fast through every room in the operation. "The badge will survive," he said. "This version of the structure will not." And still the map widened, because Harbor Vale was not just about Southern California. The operation linked outward through inland freight corridors, Nevada shell transfers, Arizona relay lanes, Gulf finance loops, and offshore account channels reaching far beyond one coastline. Loads entered through the port complex under lawful cover, then